move on. I don't want to get too stuck. There's a few new features that we haven't talked about yet. There's some online stuff. They're basically doing Nintendo's version of Discord, and they're selling a peripheral camera that you can buy separate from the Switch.
That's such a Nintendo thing.
It really is. It's so dumb. It just plugs in via USB-C. Can I just plug in my own webcam into my Switch, please? Like, why do I need to use yours? They would probably tell you that it has some kind of special, software or something, facial recognition, but like, so do other cameras. Like,
don't Bluetooth cameras exist?
Yes, absolutely they do.
That's insane
absolutely
that they'd be like, check it out. It plugs right in.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's not forget, there's going to be a bunch of dongs on those face cams while you're playing Mario Kart with your buddies.
Dong. Yeah, you go online.
Hello, and welcome to a very special edition of Grass Touchers, where the three of us pals talk about video games, how much we love them despite how little time we have for them, and also the latest in home interactive entertainment, the Nintendo Switch 2. That's right, it's a special episode this week to get you caught up on that. I am Jake.
I'm Jared.
Yeah, and I'm Greg.
Before we get right into it, let's catch up. What you been playing, Jared?
Well, I think you know what I've been playing. I've been playing a lot of Siege with you guys as often as we can, and it's been a good time. Actually, I've talked a lot of crap about that game, but you know what? Sometimes you got to turn around and go, hey, you know what? This one works. It's a game that works, so I'm not going to totally complain about it. It does have its quirks. It's definitely got its loyal followers, which is when you run into one of those guys, one of those grizzled Siege veterans, you know it. They're buzzsaws, but we've been having a good time with that.
Who was that guy? The guy the other night that like was the self-appointed team captain, and he was like telling us all this stuff.
Yeah.
We were playing Monty, and he was like, "You're good. Just keep your shield extended."
Yeah.
And you got nitro celled like immediately.
Immediately, yeah. He's all Monty. Yeah, just go full extended. You're totally good, man. Boom, blown up immediately. I get blown up immediately. We win the game, and yeah, he just appointed himself the captain. He's like, all right, guys, great game. Everybody go home, get some water, get fueled up. We'll see you tomorrow. I was like, who
Deg's
are you?
mom's got orange slices in the corner.
Yeah. But I appreciate the communication. We've had a couple of guys. Jake and I played with a guy who had a very, very heavy French accent who was just trying so hard to communicate with us. But it's been pretty good. I still don't have Game Pass, so I've been playing mostly Siege. I got a 3DS a new 3DS LL, which is the Japanese version of the XL.
Oh.
And I did a little hackadoodle on there and got the custom firmware. Been downloading some games, and then my wife found out. I downloaded Picross for her, and she quickly got addicted to it, and has
big fan of the old Picross, huh?
Yeah, she's a puzzler. She likes puzzle games.
I remember. That's right.
Yeah, same way.
Yeah. It's something about the way her mind is geared, and she just when there's a goal, they just love it. I don't know. That's probably the same way with Casey. It's like,
dude,
I can see
sitting on my dining room table right now is a 1,000-piece puzzle that's in about 994 pieces.
Yeah.
It's like, can't sit there.
Right.
Okay.
You should get her a 3DS LL, dude, with P-Cross on it. It's
I just might have to. Now, what is the LL? The fact that it's Japanese as opposed to the American distribution, does that affect your ability to do anything with it?
Now that the Nintendo eShop is shut down, it basically has no difference. I did have to when I put the homebrew on it. That was its own process, and then region unlocking it was a different process unto itself. But once that was done, there's an app called the H Shop, the homebrew shop, and it's got every game on it. You can just download everything straight to there. Every DSiWare, every virtual console game that's ever been on there. You can get it, and it's very easy at that point.
That's freaking sweet.
It's super sick, dude. And so I've been kind of enjoying that process. I always like to tinker with things. Helped my uncle move today, which was an experience.
Check you out.
Yeah, I don't want to go on.
Stand up nephew.
Yeah. It was good. I'm glad I was able to get there and help him. I don't want to say on wax too many details, but he is the kind of guy who when you see people talking trash to each other in the streets, he's the guy that's actually going to bend you over and spank you. He's everyone has their faults, everyone has their good traits. He is always a good time, and I was able to help him out today, and he had a friend of his that's been a friend since they were kids, a guy who has done crack. He did crack for 30 years.
Whoa.
And he's been clean for 14 years, and it was a wild day meeting him. Yeah, it was great. It was cool. So that was my day and pretty much my week in summation. Deg?
Yeah, mostly Siege,
Yeah, dude.
Got a couple days off of work. Had a little procedure done yesterday, and so I've got some time to play some video games. I was laying in bed earlier today recovering, and I pulled out the 3DS XL and played a little Pokemon Heart Gold. And I actually, Jared, if you would love to give me some sort of guide on how to...
I will send you the link to the video I used.
Baby. Yes, please, because I'd love to see what I can get. Because I have the Steam Deck, obviously, but sometimes just like the tiny, like laying in bed, sometimes the Game Boy does a little bit better for you.
I feel that.
There's actually a paradigm in the handheld community, which is like you get your Steam Deck for when you're in bed or on your couch. You got your pocket thing, your powerhouse, and then you got your ultra travel pocketable. Those profiles are very
Yeah.
I've had times where I played my Steam Deck for an extended period of time trying to like lay down or sit up in the bed or sit on the couch, and I struggle occasionally to get like really comfortable. And when the times where I'm the most comfortable is where I've got like, we have these like rectangular half-size pillows that are on the couch, and I get those like little armrests on the couch, dude, and then it's like in my lap but also like slightly suspended off of my legs, and it's like, now this is gaming. This is pod racing. This is working.
Now this is pod racing.
And that's the only like time that I could sit there and run my battery dry on the Steam Deck. But it's interesting how the 3DS is like, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I bought my 3DS XL when I lived in Japan. It had just come out. This is 2014. And the game I bought it for was Zelda: A Link Between Worlds.
Did you buy it in Japan? Or just before you left?
I bought it while I was in Tokyo. I bought it on Amazon. I had it shipped from the United States to Tokyo. And we were in Tokyo for a month, so it took like a week and a half to get there.
Sure.
Yeah. And so a little bit of 3DS, mostly Siege, which is really fun right now. Actually, I'm looking on Steam right now, and there's a game called Drova Forsaken Kin, which looks really interesting. I used to play this game when I was a teenager called Dark Ages, and it was a MMO made by a company called Nexon that was very famous in the 90s for bringing some Japanese top-down RPG MMOs to the U.S. for localizing them. And this game really reminds me of that game. So that looks pretty interesting. And it's like $18 on Steam. I probably won't get it because I still need to... No, I'm just saying it looks interesting.
Wishlist it. No, it's cool.
Yeah. And so that looks pretty cool. I'm a sucker for top-down or isometric, old-school, pixelated RPGs, Okay. I just think that just that art style really kind of calls to me. So...
Sure do.
Anything like that. I may jump back into some of those while I'm recovering in the next few days. But yeah, mostly Siege. Who'd have thought?
No time like the
present. And the year of our Lord, 2025, that the game we're coming back to every night is Rainbow Six Siege, and we got tons to look forward to this summer, really which we're probably gonna talk about. Jake.
No kidding. Yeah, for me, it is certainly Rainbow Six Siege. all the way down. We are. I was just looking on R6 Tracker earlier today. We're on a little bit of a hot streak, working our way up into silver. Before you know it, Jared, you're already there, I think, and then me and Deg are up in the bronze kind of area because your rank confidence is different than ours, or what have you.
Yeah.
We have had so many. Just last night we played, and we've had a lot of these moments, but this was one of them where, like, against all odds, one of us has like the play, that like really finishes out a round or a match or whatever. And I'll try to, if I have the time, like I think I will, Friday night or Saturday at sometime, you should see a clip of this on the old YouTube channel, folks. But there was a nice clutch where we were playing, and the call outs were great, and we were on Night Haven because we banned other maps, and just luck of the draw, we got Night Haven, which we were like, whatever. Let's just, I think Jared said it best. You can't get better at the game unless you play the game, and you can't get better at the maps unless you play the maps. Like, whatever, let's do it. And we actually won when we played on Night Haven, and I had this clutch at the end that was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 kills, and it was just so gratifying to see that, like, if you're smart and if you try stuff and if you don't just run headlong into a gunfight for no good reason, you've got a shot. And like you said, we've had some decent teammates. Also, last night we had the 2 sleepiest, dumbest sounding teenagers I have ever heard in my life. Where, like, one of them literally says, like, I should probably stop after this one. I'm pretty tired. And I was like, bro, just like, why? He said, like, this should be my last one, And I was like, I wish your last one was your last one. This sucks. Wake up. But anyway, we won, so no harm, no foul. I don't think I have played I was just telling Andrada this. I haven't played my Steam Deck lately, and I might need to find an excuse to do that. I just briefly considered playing Hogwarts Legacy. I bought it for my wife, but of course it's on my Steam Deck, and I was like, I really want to, like, get mileage out of that thing. I haven't used it lately, but we'll see. So far, the siege scene is just kind of at the front of my mind. That's all I really want to make time for, and we've been texting each other like, hey, you on? Let's do it. And it's been really gratifying because we're getting better. That brings us to the topic of the week, which is the Switch 2. The announcement was today. Nintendo Direct hosted it at 9 a.m. Eastern on their YouTube channel. You can go find it if you haven't checked it out. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably already checked out what you wanted to check out, but I just want to kind of go over it a little bit because we've got a lot to look forward to, not the least of which is just the games. The games that are coming out were far and away, like, more than I expected, and they've really curated some launch titles or shortly after launch titles that are going to sell so many Switch 2s, man, as if it wasn't already going to sell.
Oh, yeah.
So here we go, right? Key talking points. Bullet number 1, the price. The price, dude. If you look around the rest of the gaming ecosystem right now, you can get all kind of handhelds, from hacked Japanese 3DS LLs to Asus ROG Allies that can play like Xbox One X, graphics for 30 minutes till the battery drains. And this one's coming out at $449 for the console, which I think is pretty good. They're doing a bundle for $499 that includes the new Mario Kart that's coming out. They kind of teased that in the previous Nintendo Direct, and so they've fully fleshed out, hey, it's like this open world Mario Kart meets Forza like thing. There's traditional races, but then there's other modes that you can play, including just like roaming around with your friends. And believe it or not, that's a little bit of a deal because the base game, Mario Kart World, is $80. And so
gosh.
I'm not looking forward to the fact that some of these first-party Nintendo games are just going to be expensive. I suppose you could justify it a tiny bit by saying, well, what you're really paying for is you don't have to have other friends that have also bought the game because of something we'll get into later called share play or something like that, game share or something. You can locally, not over the internet, but locally, let your friends play the game with you. I don't know if it's a streamed instance of the game or if they like download a copy temporarily of the game onto their device over like an ad hoc network maybe.
Didn't the 3DS, not 3DS, didn't the original DS have this function? The game share?
I have no idea.
I feel like the original DS had something like this. Because I saw an IGN reveal where they talked through the Nintendo Direct thing, and they were like, "Oh yeah, the function from DS is back." When they talked about that,
That's cool. That's cool if they did. I don't. When I was getting the DS, I was there to play freaking Pokemon and move on. I wasn't really.
You weren't getting your DS, if you know what I mean.
You can say that again, brother. So yeah, you got $449 or $499 if you know you're going to play Mario Kart. And I know in my household, I'm probably just going to need to save my pennies now and do the bigger purchase there, so I can go ahead and get Mario Kart. But here's the other thing: I might hold out if I possibly can, because the screen is not OLED, and just like on the original Switch, you can see the bezel where they've like left room for a better screen in the future. Did you guys see that in the like clips? How the center sort of brains of the machine, the screen stops with like a centimeter black bezel around the actual LCD screen, and it is an LCD screen. They say it has HDR. It's probably HDR 10 or something like that. It has 120 frames capability, 120 hertz, which is pretty cool. And the screen is 1080p, which is very cool. I sort of assumed that maybe they would do kind of like the Steam Deck, they do like 800p, and then you get more frames that way, and frames are king, to my mind. But so it's some kind of custom NVIDIA Tegra chip for the hardware there. It should be able to be on par with like Xbox One, and you're looking at a dock that can increase it up to 4K. It doesn't have 4K on the screen, obviously, but if you plug into a TV, it'll do 4K. The dock even has a cooling fan, which just by physics will be able to keep your console a little bit cooler and keep performance a little more steady. Maybe like a 5 or 10% increase. That's just a number I pulled out of my butt. So they're probably using some upscaling. It's not like it's going to be outrageously full of new graphics tricks or ray tracing or funny business, but I think it's at least Steam Deck and above kind of quality. And as far as a portable, I think it's going to be just fine. 1080p on a screen that size is just fine. You guys have any thoughts on kind of the price point and the hardware and like just kind of the base deal? Before you even look at the games, what do you think?
Overall, I mean, I'll just like big picture. Nintendo knocked it out of the park, in my opinion. This is like...
Sure.
I mean, it's not, in terms of the hardware, it's not that astronomically a huge leap over the original Switch. I mean, it is a big one, but I mean, gaming PC guys and people that swear by the PS5 or whatever are going to talk crap about the graphical fidelity of the system, regardless of how good it is, probably. But in terms of just the system and kind of everything they announced today, I just think they did a really good job. I don't personally think we're actually going to get a true 4K 60 FPS.
No, docked. I don't think you'll even touch 60.
No, and I'm with you. I kind of wish they had announced they should have just made the system OLED, in my opinion. Right? Just make it OLED. Why would you have a OLED version of the old system but not offer on launch OLED of the new one? It's kind of
like I said. I think it's because they're going to expand into the OLED version, some sort of primo version later.
Price point is good for me. It's a little expensive, but the PS5 is $550 right now. 2 years after release, still $550. So it's pretty expensive, and that's with no games. So. And we'll talk about the games in a second, which I think are so excited. Jared, what do you think about kind of what Jake's talking about?
Resident handheld expert.
Yeah, I don't like disagree with you guys. I don't want to like rain on the parade. I don't really appreciate Nintendo's thing in some ways. I mean, like, I think they make great games, and I just think that it just is so weird. It feels kind of like, as somebody who's been renting an apartment for the past few years, and thankfully I'm going to be getting out of that soon, it just kind of feels like every year they just have to jack up the rent on you. I don't understand the Nintendo. I do understand the leverage that they have. I don't think I appreciate them kind of abusing that power in some ways. They've always done that, though. Their first-party titles, it's like a meme now that they sell their games for like $60, even though they're like 7 years old or whatever. And they've been doing that since we were kids. I remember Pokemon was like, you're lucky to get it for $55 when it was like out for 4 years. If it was the latest one, even if it wasn't the latest one, it was going to be an expensive game. But I just think that for the performance package, they're asking a lot at $450 to $500, and then on top of that, pricing the first party game at $80 just seems like a twist of the knife for me. That's
just awful, isn't it?
It's awful, and it's. I know costs are up in every regard and all this stuff. I know that they also Japan's going to get them much cheaper.
Right.
I think that's probably a jab at the tariffs and things like that, and maybe just wanting to bring it for the home crowd. I don't know. I don't get it. That's fine. Whatever. But right. I just feel like they are taking advantage of their aptitude in a way that I don't necessarily appreciate, but I do get it. They can, and they will, and they'll get away with it. It's just kind of like the Disney thing where they're like, the most magical place on earth, as your dad pulls out his wallet and pays $600 for the family to go in. It's like, it's a magical place as long as you're not paying for it.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh. Accurate. Disney and Nintendo have a lot in common when you put it that way. For sure. And another thing they have in common is that they are viciously litigious as well. Nintendo this year, last year, there was a whole brouhaha about them shutting down the Switch emulators that were out there. Like they went after them hard. They actually managed to get them like taken down in an official capacity. I mean, you can still get them in various places because the internet is just a virus. There's just a fertile ground for things to spread. No matter what you do, you can't really get rid of anything. But the internet is forever.
Yeah. I don't appreciate that. I think there was a time when Nintendo was like, we take chances and we make things that are as accessible as they can be. And I mocked that as a kid, but I appreciate that now. And then now that I'm an adult and I would appreciate it, they're like, guess what? We're charging, we're making you pay for it now. I'm like, I didn't ask for this. Go back to being the cheapest console, the most accessible thing. I don't know. It's going to end up fine. Everything's going to end up fine. Nobody's forcing me to buy this at launch. Nobody's forcing me to pay $80 for Mario Kart. It's fine. But I can definitely see I was underwhelmed by that, by the offering. I wasn't like, wow, this is great. I can't wait to like get in line for this. It was just like, okay,
here we go.
I'm sure it's worth that, but I'm not.
I think one of the things that's going to help me make up my mind as to when to. I have children. They are currently 6 and 8. Mm-hmm. I'm getting the new Nintendo. Like I just am.
Sure.
That's a part of it. But where I draw the line and when to adopt is like, I sure hope they've learned some lessons from the Switch 1 and its hardware foibles, right? Mm-hmm. The joysticks. I think if they had Hall effect joysticks in the Switch 2, they would have said so. And they did not say so. So I feel like they're going to need to have made some really robust new Joy-Cons. They talked about how the little shoulder buttons when you're holding it sideways are like bigger now. So like that's cool. But as with the Switch, there's a lot of like tiny kind of moving parts in the system. And I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see how the hardware actually shakes out when it goes to be used by people. I think that'll help me decide. So, yeah, overall, the hardware's going to be fine, but we'll see how well it ages. My prediction officially on wax is that it will probably age poorly like the Switch 1 did, but the games are going to keep it afloat for a while because they're going to keep charging $70 or $80 for all the games.
Right, and I think that's what irks me real quick. I think that's what irks me a little bit is that it's like they're coming at us with like tech that's not state of the art. But they're like, we're going to still charge you a state-of-the-art price. It's like, why?
Right.
Why? Just because you can?
Yeah.
I feel like they could still cut a pretty heavy profit off of a low console price like they did with the original Switch and then just selling their first-party software the way they always do because everybody buys it because it's great. It's great. Admittedly, it's wonderful. I love their properties, but I don't know.
I kind of have a weird opinion about this. Not to play devil's advocate, but I personally think that games are too cheap. Like video games themselves are too cheap. No, there is no other activity on planet Earth that you can participate in at the quality we do with video games for like 40 cents an hour. Mm-hmm. And when you buy a game,
if you break it down that way, I hear you. Yes. But I think status quo and history and like precedence is keeping me from fully accepting some practices like this one.
Sure.
I think you're like, there's times where on the Steam sales and stuff, I'm like, oh, these poor devs, they're selling their game for $10 that used to be like $45, and this is not a large studio. I want to pay them more. I'm going to scoop up the game because it's on sale, but they deserve more than my $10. I would have paid more than 10. It was $45 yesterday, and now it's $10. Why is that? So I hear you to a degree, especially with smaller studios.
Yeah, that's just. I was thinking back though on the console side to like 2001. I remember when my mom or dad bought me a GameCube, and I remember that it was $150 for a GameCube in 2001. Yeah, which, if you really think about it, I mean, considering the fact that you used to be able to build a fence in your backyard for $2,000 and it's now $12,000, going from $150 to $450 is not. In 24 years is not that much more expensive. Right. But it's all pretty expensive though, video games in general. But
I just used a inflation calculator real fast to look up in 2001, $150 would be $269 today. So the GameCube, you're absolutely right to point out, was a huge value proposition. And in today's episode, we're actually going to circle back to the GameCube because some GameCube games are coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. And that is very cool. Also related to this topic, one of the reasons that I really am not going to cut Nintendo slack for price gouging on video games for all their first-party stuff, without looking it up, if you don't already know this number, do you know how many Switches Nintendo sold so far? As of December 31st in 2024, at the end of last year, what was the total number of Nintendo Switch original consoles? I suppose this includes light and OLED and standard.
500 million.
Do you know how many? No, I mean that's too much.
How many did you say?
It's less than that. He said 500 million, and that's like way too many.
80 million.
150,860,000 Nintendo Switches. Of, again, varying kinds, I suppose that number comes from. That's a lot. Yeah. And it's like more than any other console, I think, besides the PS2 or something, or 3DS or some. It's up there. And so it is Nintendo's best-selling home console, it says. Third best of all time. The PS2 and then Nintendo DS are above it. The DS almost doesn't count because there were so many iterations for so many years. There were a lot of iterations. Anyway, that's so much money.
It's so much money.
Their profit margin is, but if you assume they're making even $50 per Switch, 150 million times 50, dude, like that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think there's room for cutting the consumer some slack on some of these games. Gee whiz.
And something's got to give. That's my big issue with this. Is it's like they're charging standard to premium price, and then they're charging extra premium for the software, and that's my issue. It's like, hardware sales have always. You look at lots of hardware sales, they do take a loss because they want to get you in the door for their software sales, which makes sense. So it's like, which one is it, Nintendo? Do you just want my money?
Because they're kind of just doing both.
Right. And I think in some ways they're probably hedging against emulation and jailbreaking and things like that because they're clearly paying attention to that now.
Yes, to some degree, these hardware sales and software sales are padding their war chest for their lawyers, so that the first Switch 2 emulator comes out, they can jump on it.
Right, and I just think it's a slippery slope.
Right.
You know what I don't get, guys, is why don't Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft, why don't they just, if they really want to kill emulation, I don't know why they don't do it. Like, they do it to a degree with Virtual Console,
like put out Switch OS that you can
Yeah.
boot up in a
Yeah.
in a container on your PC. That'd be so cool.
You pay $5 per game, emulation would die. Overnight, it would die. You can play any, like if you're Nintendo, you can play any NES game, any Super Nintendo, anything up to the current generation, and the price scales, depending.
Sure.
Like if they really, instead of getting litigious and doing all this, why don't they just do it better?
So
Like,
as
I
we're
don't-
going to get into, they are doing that. They're just doing it badly and for too much money. Because since the Wii, you've been able to get. You guys remember when the Wii came out and they unlocked the virtual console sort of, Pandora's box, right? And it was like all these games that you could play. You could play like Galaga or Pac-Man or all these old. You could play Dr. Mario and you could play
Super
all these games.
Metroid,
Super Metroid. You could play on the Wii with the controller sideways. The Switch being a sideways controller is not new. That started back on the Wii, and the way that rolled out, I was flabbergasted that they did that because I thought, oh, no wonder this is like this untapped market. There's a bunch of people, especially the old heads and the boomers, that are happy to pay $5 to play their favorite freaking Atari game or whatever. That sounds great to them. They'll buy grandma a Wii so that when the kids go to grandma's house in the summertime, they can play, Dr. Mario or whatever. That's great. So they are doing that. It's just that it's not very open or welcoming because, again, first-party Nintendo games, whether digital or physical, are still too much money. And so they haven't unveiled the prices for the new ones that are coming, the GameCube ones, but we'll get into that. All right, let's move on. I don't want to get too stuck. There's a few new features that we haven't talked about yet. There's some online stuff. They're basically doing Nintendo's version of Discord, and they're selling a peripheral camera that you can buy separate from the Switch.
That's such a Nintendo thing.
It really is. It's so dumb. It just plugs in via USB-C. Can I just plug in my own webcam into my Switch, please? Like, why do I need to use yours? They would probably tell you that it has some kind of special, software or something, facial recognition, but like, so do other cameras. Like,
Don't Bluetooth cameras exist?
Yes, absolutely they
That's
do.
insane
Absolutely
that they
do.
do. Like, check it out. It plugs right in.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's not forget, there's going to be a bunch of dongs on those face cams while you're playing Mario Kart with your buddies.
Dong. Yeah, you go online.
Your buddies want to prank you, and they're going to play Donkey Dong. So they've got this new peripheral, but it's literally just a webcam on a stick, on a stand. It looks kind of dumb, in my opinion. And they say that the inbuilt microphones on the controllers and on the console itself have really good noise canceling. So, like, they showed an example. It's funny. It reminded me of us recording the podcast because occasionally we have background noise to deal with, whether it's my kids coming in or our wives or something going on, And they showed an example of somebody, like, running the sink and washing dishes or something while homeboy was, like, playing a game with his friends. And they had this little graphic that shows, like, background noise canceled, game audio, because he's just using speakers, canceled, and it's only transmitting his voice. We'll see how well that really works because, as we just know far too well, it is really challenging to play online video games with people who have their mic just like not push to talk, just wide open, and you hear all the background noise. You hear the neighbor's house party, and you hear the pit bulls, and you hear all the nonsense.
Their grandma getting plowed in the next room,
and grandma getting plowed in the back. That's right. And so they're touting their new feature, Game Chat, as being a great like face cam screen share thing. They've included a new button on the controllers, the C button. Rip to the C stick, rip to a ledge, dude. I love the C stick. So they have the C button, which is like the Game Chat button. It opens up the overlay for all your communications and comm stuff. So that's interesting, but I don't really care. Probably not going to use it. And then Game Share is the thing I mentioned earlier, where locally you could put like 4 Switch 2s in a room, and if one kid has Mario Kart, they can all play Mario Kart together. I'll be interested to see what that performance is like. Again, I'm not sure if it's streamed or if it's like downloading a copy of it ad hoc or, something like that. It could be cool. What would be really slick, technologically speaking, is what you do is you first load up just like the client of the game, like the main menu, and then everybody just downloads that first. And then when you pick what Grand Prix you're doing, you just download the Grand Prix that you chose to everybody's consoles. If you do it piecemeal, from a software dev perspective, that gets me.
I got a question. I don't know if you've already brought this up. I saw something about like hey, no more cartridges, but you get a key and you put it in and it lets you play the game every single time. What is that? What are they talking about?
I don't know if this is confirmed, but there was already some fracas in the Twitter sphere, X sphere, and whatnot about the physical copy isn't even a physical copy because as soon as you put it in, it makes you download the game. We've been doing that for a while now.
Yeah.
Where a physical copy of a game is really just like two-factor authentication. It's just a physical piece of it's a giant software key is all it is. And so you're putting it in your console and then downloading the whole game.
So that's all it is?
Or I think that's what people are saying. Nintendo has not said that. That's not first-party relayed information. But if it is, that's gay.
Nintendo would make it sound like they just came up with it, though. We do know that.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah, and then they would TM. It would trademark it. Game key. Serious console selling titles. Douglas, did you see the Switch 2 exclusive, Dusk Bloods?
Oh, of course I
from
did, Jay.
FromSoft.
Of course I did.
Yeah, I just bet you did.
Oh my gosh, it made my little FromSoft heart go pitter patter.
Yeah.
It's really the most
could not
shocking thing I think
possibly-
of the whole reveal.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean,
heard it made him
FromSoft.
go from soft to hard.
Yeah, the game. The developer needs a new name after what they did to me earlier today.
FromSoft, more like too hard.
Absolutely. Honestly, it's really shocking. And they're releasing Elden Ring on Switch 2, which is crazy.
Yeah, so that gets into something I'm sure we'll end up saying by the end of this podcast, so I'll just say it now. They're just releasing a bunch of games that have been out for years in like Switch 2 mode or Switch 2 exclusive or not exclusive, but like Switch 2 enhanced. And yeah, Elden Ring is one of them that they're doing that for. The what is it? Bleedy
Tarnished
Bloody,
edition.
Forsaken, tarnished edition.
Tarnished edition.
Which is I guess Ultimate Edition or something.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, it looked, the video they showed had the DLC as part of it,
Okay.
so I guess it comes with DLC. But Duskbloods, my gosh, it looks really cool. It looks
Are
like
people on the internet right to say that it's a spiritual successor to Bloodborne?
I think so. It kind of
Is that
looks like Bloodborne meets the open world. Bloodborne is notoriously not open world. It's a very, in my opinion, linear game. It's kind of like Bloodborne meets the open world nature of Elden Ring meets a little bit of another Souls-like called Lies of P, where you play as Pinocchio, which I
Yeah.
talked a little bit about on the pod last year. It's kind of a
that was
little
good.
bit of, it's very good. It's kind of a combination of all three of those.
I saw a
games to
choo-choo
my
train
eyes.
in the trailer, and I was
Yes.
like, that's not the medieval gothic sort of Elden Ring thing. And then a character had guns, and I was like, now hold the phone. What is
Yeah.
this about?
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. And so I'm very intrigued. I will certainly get it.
Right.
And
The style of it is very rad. I don't think I have been properly enticed by a Soulsborne like to date, but I'm stoked that the Switch 2 is having a FromSoft exclusive. That's wild to me.
yeah, kind of. I wonder what strings Nintendo had to pull, and by strings I mean how much money they had to throw at FromSoft to get this as an exclusive.
FromSoft is going to make so much money, it's going to be stupid. You know, it's like this is a win-win all the way around. So I'm sure it was a real selling point. Next up, we have the big Donkey Kong game, Donkey Kong Bonanza, where Donkey Kong is digging through the terrain, destroying stuff, lots of destructibility. It's got bright colors, it's got cute critters, it's got funny, hilarious slapstick Donkey Kong moments. I think it's going to be a big hit in my household. And anything remotely resembling Donkey Kong Country 64 is pretty sick from a nostalgia standpoint. So that's probably going to be very radical.
Looks rad. I will definitely get that.
Yes. That takes us to Metroid Prime 4. Always stoked on those because we're big Metroid heads around here. At least me and Deg are. Jared, do you frick with Metroid a whole lot there, bud?
Here and there.
Yeah.
Here and there.
Word.
Not as much as you guys, though. Definitely not as much as you guys.
I got the Metroid Prime remaster on Switch, and I had just a blast playing through that sucker. I got to the phase on mines and kind of stopped because I was like, I know what happens next, and I'm not going to go get all the missile expansions or whatever. But it was a really fun time to kick back with that. So Metroid Prime 4 was the first game where they brought up the performance modes. I guess it's going to release on Switch 1 and 2. I bet it's gonna be really lame on Switch 1. It'll probably look about like the Metroid Prime remaster, which didn't look bad, but it was also literally a GameCube game. So like the stakes were real, the bar was low, you know.
A game that already
very
looked pretty good, by the way, back in the day.
I agree. Yeah, I was blown away. Again, first party, right? Nintendo knows how to flex their own hardware because they built the dang thing. The Switch 2 version of Metroid Prime 4 will have enhanced visuals, blah, 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 blah. And they have a performance mode and a quality mode. I think it always sucks, personally, when you have to choose between those two things. Ideally, the game is optimized, and you pick a lane, and you stay in that lane as a developer. That's how I prefer people to make their games. But if you want to choose, it can theoretically do 4K 60. I think we all know we're not touching 60. It'll be like 28, but it can do it if you dock it and put it on
the loading screens.
The loading screens will be 60.
They're
yeah,
insane,
absolutely. If you go performance mode on your television, you're going to be at 1080p 120 FPS. Again, not sure if you'll really be pushing 120, but hopefully it's close. That's kind of sick. And then handheld quality mode, you're hitting 1080 60, and then performance on the handheld, you're hitting 720 120 FPS. So they've basically got that you get either 4K or 1080 on the TV, and you get 1080 or 720 on the handheld, and you're getting 60 or 120 respectively. HDR always on, so that's kind of nice if you've got the right television. I'm not sure what standard of HDR it'll pump out, but that's something. And then honestly, the next thing that stuck out to me was a bunch of the ports. Cyberpunk 2077 coming out on the Switch 2. Okay, so that's cool. I just feel like if you haven't played Cyberpunk 2077 by now, you're probably never going to play it. And
right,
why would you? A really weird grab.
Why would
so
your first experience be on? They're just trying to show. They're like, hey, the Switch 2, it's powerful enough, guys, and it's like that. It's like
6 years too late. Shut up.
Right. Right.
They should put Crysis on it and be like, look, Nintendo can finally play Crysis 1.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. That's why Nintendo is always like, I always have a little bit of secondhand embarrassment in a way, because like, but not in a way that I think is cool anymore. Like when they when they released the Wii, it was like, ha ha ha, stupid gaming console with remote. That's gay. Nobody will play that. And then it turned out that they made it work.
And then it was so fun.
And it was so fun.
Hours into golf and bowling and that weird Zelda crossbow on shooter. And I ate it up.
And now they're just basically kind of going like, hey, look at us, guys. We're like everybody else, but from 2 years ago, and also pay us the same amount. It's like,
right.
This isn't Nintendo. Where's Reggie? Bring back Reggie Fils-Aimé. It all went downhill after Reggie left.
That's right. How could we forget, however, after all the ports, after the Switch 2 versions of games that have already been out, we have Paraplegic Rocket League, you guys.
Did
you see this? It's called not, I almost said Dig Dug. That's not it. Drive Dash. What's it called?
Lieutenant Dan Dug.
Drag X Drive. And it literally looks like Rocket League, but a basketball game. And you're playing dudes on wheelchairs. And your Joy-Cons, 2 per person, function with motion controls to like spin the wheels of your wheelchair thing. And then you can like pass the ball to each other. And it looks really interesting. And I think it's the kind of thing that I would sit there and play with a buddy for an hour or two and have a blast. But not like, try to go pro or something like that. This is not the sort of... I could be wrong, but it looks like... do you guys remember Wild Arms? It was a game that came out for the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
It used a lot of motion controls, and it was like some kind of crazy boxing game or something with like a wannabe kind of competitive online scene. Where
was it Wild Arms? Wild Arms was an old PlayStation RPG I used to play.
No, I'm not thinking of Wild Arms. What am I thinking of? Switch Arms game. Oh, it's just called Arms.
Arms, right, okay.
Not Wild Arms. It was just called Arms.
I've heard of Wild Arms.
I watched the... when
came out in 2017.
IGN did the like I said, I watched the IGN play-by-play of the direct today, and when they got to this thing with the wheelchair basketball thing, like every other game, they're like,
Yeah.
and they got to the wheelchair thing, and they were all like, huh.
Dude,
Like
can't-
none of them knew none of them knew how to like vocally appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was very awkward.
Whereas here on Grass Touchers, ladies and gentlemen, we are unafraid of saying paraplegic Rocket League. It's totally fine. All the love in the world to those people. I'm sure it takes a lot of athleticism to play basketball in a wheelchair. And if you play wheelchair basketball, props. Keep up the great work.
I actually just read something about that ARMS game. They're actually releasing a sequel for it. It's called Balls, but you slap each other in the face with the freaking saggy nutsacks. It's supposed to be really good.
I'm stoked to see the peripherals are going to come out with that. That should be pretty cool. So here's the other stuff that we got to just cover real quick. Okay, I got 3 more things for you guys. They got a mouse. Okay, the Joy-Con. You pull it off of the Switch. You turn it on its side, and you have the tallest, most narrow mouse you've ever seen in your life. And you can skate around on your tabletop and use it like a mouse. It's got a little optical sensor in there. So I thought this was pretty dumb until I saw one of the other announcements is that Civilization 7 will be getting a Switch 2 version. And I thought, oh, that's one. You got one. Right? Some RTS game where it's actually a lot easier to click around. Okay, sure. But what do I do with my left hand? Is my left hand on a Joy-Con using a stick to do, strafing WASD movement? And then I would be... are you trying to make it so that I can play my shooter games with a mouse and keyboard kind of feel? Like what? Make up your mind? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. Again, it is one of those features that needs to be really crispy and great. It needs to function very well for it to make any sense. I thought it was probably a strange choice.
Only going, just like with all their first-party games and all their crazy tech, it's going to be viable for only their games.
And they have shown that already, right? Mario Party or whatever.
Right.
They showed, like, here's a little putt-putt game where your Joy-Con is essentially the club face and you can putt. Isn't that cool?
Right.
Isn't that cool, guys? And I was like, yeah, I mean, for about 20 minutes, that'll be holding my attention,
exactly.
I suppose. I don't know. So we'll see how that shakes out. The upgrade packs, which we briefly mentioned earlier. So the way it works is what you're really getting is the Switch 1 game. So if you already have it, you're halfway there. And then you're buying this like Switch 2 upgrade pack. You could call it DLC, I guess. And so for some games, they're charging you. You got to buy the upgrade pack, and you'll get lots of new functionality. There's new ways to interact with the game. They added a bunch of stuff. For example, if you have Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, you legitimately get some new functionality via the Nintendo app on your phone, which will be rebranded the Nintendo Switch app, they said. They put a GPS in Zelda, dude. We got freaking Google Maps in Breath of the Wild before we got GTA 6, okay?
It's pretty cool,
literally. It honestly, from a technological standpoint, I'm flabbergasted. I think it's very radical. It will connect to your game instance on your... because your accounts are linked, right? So your Switch is telling the Nintendo server like where in the world your character is. Your phone is either locally or in the game server like calculating some sort of route. And there's a voice that's like, keep heading north. You have reached your destination. And so you can like take notes. This is another thing. There's a notes app called Zelda Notes where you can take notes of like where shrines are, where Koroks are, where treasure chests are, where stuff is. And you can like quickly navigate to them later. Let's say you see there's a Korok up on a mountain, but you don't have the tech to get up there yet, or you're low on resources and you can't get up there. You can drop a pin, go frick off, and restock, or get the item that you need, and then GPS your way back, go north, and then you're there. So if you are a Zelda head, you're gonna have a field day with this. You're gonna play the game from the beginning. You're gonna have a new save file. They're letting you transfer your save over to your Switch 2. They've got a mechanism for that. It's really interesting what they're doing there, but I have said this before. I kind of bounced off of Breath of the Wild, and I never played Tears of the Kingdom. I was kind of a contrarian on that one. So, will it make me play Breath of the Wild again? Who's to say? We'll find out. I'm not sure. But I also haven't heard, I don't think they've said, how much the upgrade pack is. Are we talking $50, dude? Because count me out. I'm not doing that. That's crazy. It's the same game with like 20% more, stuff. Another $50. I would draw a line. So we'll see what they unveil on the store there. They're making it easy on you. It'll be on the eShop. You can just like download the upgrade pack because you already own the game. But I think I don't know. They can really step in it.
Nintendo, if I'm paying $450 for your console and then $80 for your freaking game, you better give me the upgrade pack for free.
Now you can buy. Now that's true. If you just buy the Switch 2 version outright, then you ain't got to worry about all that. Okay. This is for the backwards compatibility guys that already have Breath of the Wild and they want to play it on the Switch 2. Okay. You could play the Switch 1 game on your Switch 2, but it won't have the extra stuff. I suppose it'll run better just by a matter of horsepower, but it would not be the Switch 2 version. You'll probably get more frames, which was one of my main issues with Breath of the Wild. That game ran like from the beginning, and I wish that it was better performing. So I don't know. Maybe I'll like it. So, Greg, you got any thoughts on that? Are you gonna replay any of that stuff?
I'm with you. If it's $50, count me out. Right. I personally, like, Tears of the Kingdom is in my personal top 5 video games of all time list. And so, I mean, I beat that game. I beat the main story. I did all the shrines, and I did not 100% that game in the way that I did Elden Ring, but,
sure.
It is certainly top 5, but $50, no, screw that. Count me out. If it's like 15, 20, okay, I'll do that.
I think 20 would be my limit.
My max, yeah, for sure. So I think it's a great idea. Personally, I think Nintendo should do it for free. Like, if you already bought the game, they should let you upgrade and shouldn't charge you.
What they have added to the game is not a ton of new content. It's new ways to interact with the game. The one thing that they said is going to be in the Zelda games, I think it was both, not just one. They have added like little voice lines and like story beats that you can find throughout the world. But to me, that's just a bunch of waypoints on my map and like secrets to discover. And that has never been my bread and butter of a Zelda game. So
sure,
I don't need more collectibles in my life. Last thing is this, guys. The GameCube, ladies and gentlemen, give it up. The GameCube, the little purple monster with the carry handle in the back. You get to finally, without emulating, play a bunch of GameCube stuff. You can play Wind Waker. You can play F-Zero GX. You can play Sunshine, dude. You can play all those games on a Switch 2 in your hands without being a giant hackazoid nerd like Jared. So if that interests you, ladies and gentlemen, the Switch 2 just might be for you. Did you guys ever play F-Zero GX, the GameCube F-Zero game?
It's hard.
It's so hard. Little 12-year-old me trying to go 1,000,000 miles an hour as Captain Falcon. I think it was the second or third level I couldn't even get past, but I had a blast with that game. The customization was so cool. And so they're spitting that out along with a bunch of other GameCube games.
I finally, hopefully they have custom Robo. That game's radical.
Jared knows.
Love me some custom Robo.
All three of us know about some custom Robo. I rented that so many times I could have bought it twice.
I really just implore, once again, I'm going to implore you guys and anybody listening to play Gotcha Force for the GameCube. It was a GameCube exclusive, nobody talks about it. And it was just an insanely amazing game that I just cannot believe nobody talks about it. It was probably my favorite GameCube game.
Nice.
But I'm just throwing that
high praise. Well, hey, you heard it here, folks. Gotcha Force.
That and
get you some gotcha.
Zero.
Couldn't agree more, ladies and gentlemen.
A classic. Yes. You have been successful.
Oh, man. You know what it's... You know what's going to be sick is you can do multiplayer. I think we should, if at some point we all get the Switch 2 down the road, I think that would be a fun time. We're trying to go 1,000,000 miles an hour. Lightspeed F-Zero GX together, dude. Come on.
I just got done laying 5,000 miles of GameCube controller cables to your guys' addresses so that we could play F-Zero GX together. That sucks, dude.
No. I thought you looked a little winded. Wow. Can you imagine the delay on those like old 2002 copper, like horribly braided rubbery cables? Oh my gosh. Yeah. So yeah, if you're a GameCube guy, look out. Nintendo's coming for your wallet. Big time. Big time.
They're coming for your wallet. They're coming for your life. They're coming for your seed. They're going to.
Oh, dang, son.
They will.
Milk me.
Yeah.
Oh. Any final thoughts on the Switch 2, fellas, before we wrap her up?
I'm going to get it.
Optimistic. I'm pessimistic.
Yeah.
I think I'm in the middle, and I'm like I said, I'm gonna get it. With kids, my kids' age, it's sort of an inevitability. I will probably hold out until a birthday or a Christmas or a thing.
Dude, make it big.
I ain't about to just buy a Switch 2 in the middle of summer when I got stuff to do.
Juneteenth is a holiday. Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect,
That's
dude.
what I'll wait. That's right. Yeah, yeah. It comes out June 5th. I guess I could literally do that. That'd be so funny, dude. Oh my gosh.
Hey, I added something to the
Juneteenth.
soundboard. Check it out.
Nice shot. Nice shot. Nice shot.
Yeah, dude. That is
Yeah.
timely and perfect for what we're about to do, which is click heads in Rainbow Six Siege. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you're looking forward to the Switch 2 to some degree. It's got something for everybody, as usual, as long as you got the cash. So until next time, get out there, touch some grass, check out the YouTube channel, check out the Instagram at 3GrassTouchers, and we will see you next time.